guys, it's Nick with Smith Forge Strength and Conditioning. I just want to talk today about something, cover a topic that got brought up a little bit in my last video regarding my meet, and it was training while injured. And I kind of wanted to elaborate on this a little bit more, and I think this concept is kind of lost on people. You know, when we're training, or you're just a weekend warrior, injuries are sometimes unpreventable. One, if you've never had an injury before, eventually something will happen. And I think the misconception that a lot of people get, and I think the tide is starting to change, luckily, with more evidence out there and the different providers that are able to talk about this type of stuff, is initially people who get injured, they tend to do nothing. And the biggest scare is like, oh, what happens if it gets worse? And that's a common fear that people have, and I think that's valid. I think that should be validated in most people. And I think for physical therapists out there, strength coaches, I think it's important, and it's our jobs to instill that confidence in those patients, your athletes, whoever it is, to know that, hey, you may have a specific injury, but you can still work. Sometimes you see these athletes, they do something to their shoulder, but they're a cyclist, so the first thing they can do is get on the bike. They're on the rollers. If you're a weightlifter and you happen to injure your knee or your hips bothering you, the first thing you should be doing is trying to find what you can do. If an extremity is limited and it is supposed to get its necessary breaks, it shouldn't deter you from being able to train something else. Follow the course, do something, movement, anything is better than doing nothing. Now, I'm not saying go out and do something insane to where you could potentially put yourself at jeopardy, but being able to work around what you have. So for example, this is obviously anecdotal. My last training meet, I had a shoulder injury. I had a partial tear of my rotator cuff from 2 meets ago. And this entire training session, I was fighting with that. My lifts were obviously deterred. My bench press was the thing that hurt the most. Deadlifts in the beginning were also very painful. Now, I had to make some adjustments. I had numbers I wanted to hit, but sometimes, certain days, that wasn't going to happen. And so the way I modified that was multiple things. One, I reduced the weight. If you can do something at a smaller percentage and still get the movement, it's better than not doing it at all, especially if you can do it with proper form. If you're not irritating the structure and you're able to do it with proper form, that's helpful. The other thing I did was I modified with some tools. So for my deadlifts, knowing that kind of having the pull or the traction on the shoulder was irritating, I used wrist straps. So yeah, my grip was a little bit eliminated during some of my top sets, but I was still able to do my deadlift work, but just modified a little bit, and my shoulder wasn't at risk. This can go for any type of injury. I have my athletes out there. I have my weekend warriors who play, softball or some other, whatever their activity is. And I try to instill in them, like, hey, there's nothing wrong with going to the gym. If your leg hurts, go do some upper body, get some movement. Any type of movement is good. I think it's important for physical therapists and strength coaches out there to be more proactive about getting their clients to do a little bit more and instilling them that confidence. And for you athletes out there, you shouldn't feel alone. If you're having injury, everybody gets injured. So if it's something that you guys are struggling with, and you're kind of seeing like, oh, I'm just kind of blowing through it, or just kind of working through it and toughing it out, you don't necessarily have to tough it out. You just have to modify. So if you know that certain movements are painful for you, see if you can advise somebody that is, obviously competent in being able to assess your form, and proceed from there. Be able to work around that particular movement until the tissues are healed, or until you can start loading that tissue again back to your normal strength. So I hope this was somewhat informative. I know it's a little different kind of video this week, but I hope it's helpful. It'll send a little message out there. for those of you who are dealing with this type of stuff, and injuries are very common. So if you guys have any more questions specifically about what you can do to kind of work around your specific injuries, feel free to contact me. We'll see you again next week with another video. Until then, thanks for watching.